Episode 2. Feast Day Sabbaths are not the weekly Sabbath. Let's set the record straight. Not all Sabbaths are the same, but false teachers love to blur the lines. They quote Colossians 2:16, wave it like a victory flag and shout, "See, the Sabbath was nailed to the cross." But here's the dagger they hide behind their back. That verse isn't talking about the seventh-day Sabbath. It's talking about ceremonial feast days, called Sabbaths in the law of Moses, but they are not the Sabbath written by God's finger on stone. Let's go to the source, Leviticus 23. God lists all the annual feasts: Passover, unleavened bread, trumpets, Day of Atonement, tabernacles. And guess what? They are each called Sabbaths. But there's a catch. These feast Sabbaths fall on different days of the week. They're not weekly. They're not the seventh day. In fact, Leviticus 23 makes this clear in verse 3. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. It is the Sabbath of the Lord. Then the very next verse begins, "These are the feasts of the Lord." Vishatu 4. Do you see it? God separates the weekly Sabbath from the yearly feast days. One was instituted at creation. The others came after sin. One is part of the moral law. The others are part of the ceremonial law. And that's why Colossians 2:16-17 says, "Let no man therefore judge you in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ." Shadow Sabbaths. Not the real, not the eternal. They pointed forward to Jesus. But the weekly Sabbath doesn't point forward. It points backward to creation. It reminds us who God is. It isn't a shadow, it's the seal of the living God. So why do so many pastors confuse them? Because if they can convince you that Colossians 2 erased the seventh-day Sabbath, they've bought themselves a license to preach Sunday worship without ever proving it from Scripture. They toss the whole basket of Sabbaths into the fire just to burn one. But they forget, God separates the holy from the temporary. Feast Day. Sabbaths were temporary, based on sacrifices held on various weekdays. Part of Moses' law, written in a book, placed beside the ark, Deuteronomy 31:26. But the seventh-day Sabbath was permanent, based on creation, always on the seventh day, part of God's law, written in stone, placed inside the ark, Exodus 40:20. You cannot treat the eternal like it's optional. So here's the challenge to every priest, pastor, and preacher. Stop twisting Scripture. Stop using Colossians 2 to destroy what God Himself blessed. Stop feeding people poison wrapped in tradition. Because when you say all Sabbaths were abolished, you are calling God's eternal law a shadow. And you are paving the road to Sunday, Rome's invention. So I ask, can you find one verse where Jesus kept a feast day instead of the seventh-day Sabbath? Can you find one verse where He told His disciples to ignore the seventh day? Can you find one commandment where He changed the day? No, you can't. Because the truth is this: ceremonial Sabbaths ended at the cross. The creation Sabbath never did. And when the smoke clears, only one day stands on eternal ground. The seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. Exodus 20:10. This is the line in the sand. The feast days are gone. The land Sabbaths are past. But the seventh day still remains. Will you walk in truth, or will you hide in tradition?